All right, good afternoon, everybody. We are starting the Human Services Committee meeting. My name is Bobby Burns, Councilmember Burns, 5th Ward. This is November 1st. Again, Human Services Committee meeting, calling it to order. And I believe we have a quorum, but we have members or a member online, so we should probably do a roll call. Yeah.
Councilmember Fleming?
It is muted on this end.
Can't hear us?
Councilmember Reed, can you hear us? Okay, can somebody help with that? I'm not sure they can hear us online.
Okay. Councilmember Ravel?
Here.
Councilmember Burns?
Here.
Councilmember Reed?
You can't hear us.
Okay, but he's here. Okay.
So next up is approval of minutes for the Human Services Committee. Can I have a motion?
I move approval.
All right. Can I get a second? Can he still not hear us?
You want us?
Council, can I second the motion as the chair, or how does that work? He said I can't. Councilman Reed said he can't hear on Zoom. This meeting is being recorded. Luke, can you help us? I alerted them. Okay.
So, while we're waiting for Councilmember Reed to get unmuted, so I do have a question, though. I mean, this set of minutes, as well as the previous set of minutes, didn't record which council members were present and not present. So it'd be helpful if we did that going forward.
Noted.
I mean, I suppose for our official record, we ought to show who's actually attended.
Council, can we just amend it?
Can I assume that all members of the committee were there at the last meeting? Okay, well then I amend it to show that the 5 council members serving on the Human Services Committee were in attendance.
Okay, the motion was made. Councilmember Reed, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you all now.
Councilmember Ravel, can you repeat the amendment, please?
My motion is that we add into the minutes for our October 4th meeting that all 5 council members who are members of the Human Services Committee were in attendance.
Can I get a second for that?
Second.
All right. Let's vote on the amendment.
Okay. Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. Can you make the motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the amended minutes for October 4th.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we have public comment.
We have none.
Okay. We have no public comment, so moving down to items for consideration. It's all items for consideration, right?
We have 3 for discussion.
3 for discussion. Items for consideration, HS2, approval of 2021 funding recommendations by the Social Services Committee for case management and safety net services. The Social Services Committee and staff recommend approval by the Human Services Committee of city funding totaling $842,770 to the 14 nonprofit agencies to provide case management and safety net social services to Evanston residents. Allocations range from $22,000 $500 to $150,000 for 6 case management and 10 safety net programs and services. Can someone move that?
I move
This is for
approval.
action.
I move approval of this funding recommendation.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Just point of order, are myself, Councilmember Ravel, and you, Chair, the only folks here?
Yes.
So was there a question?
Any discussion? Yeah, he's just asked if we're the
Oh,
only ones
okay.
here. We are.
Right.
Any discussion around this item? Okay, seeing
Looks fine to me.
seeing none, can we call the vote, please?
Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye. Moving on, HS3, Resolution 123-R-21, Professional Services Agreement with James B. Moran Center for 2021 Certificate of Rehabilitation Program. To provide legal services for not less than 15 Evanston residents to secure certificates of rehabilitation, expungement, and criminal records, sealing in an amount not to exceed $30,000. Can someone move approval?
I move approval.
All right, second. Any se- I think
Second.
council said I can second, so I'm going to start seconding stuff. I second that. Any discussion?
I did have a question. So I understand that this is a program the Moran Center's been providing for us for a number of years. Could we just have a little background?
Director Ogbo?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good day, members of the Human Services Committee. Ike Ogbo, Director, Health and Human Services Department. Yes, this is a contract that we've had in place for a number of years, and that is to assist with the expungement or sealing of non-criminal acts by youth, and it's been a successful program that we've had so far, and we'll continue to embark on having this program because of its usefulness. And I don't know if you have any, you just want to know how long we've had the
How long
contracts?
and then roughly how many individuals have we been able to help with this program?
Well, I actually do not have those stats
Okay.
with me, but we can provide that information to you. And I'm wondering if Audrey Thompson, who oversees the youth advocacy side of this contract, if she's available to provide that information, if that information is available at this point.
Yeah, I just think it'd be interesting for the community to know how many individuals we've been able to help with this program. I think it's a great program.
Absolutely.
Hi, Director Okbo, City Council members, Audrey Thompson, Program Manager for Community Services Division. So just in the last year, I'm just providing stats just from the last year. We have expunged, we have 27 expunged petitions that are filing, were pending, and then 14 have been granted. So some, even though we are above the actual amount that is for the grant, because of the pandemic, there are some that have been filed, however, have not been completed, and that's basically because of, the court. But we have filed 27 just from the last year, and 14 have been granted. There have been, and these are not just for youth, but also for adults. There was one expungement that's pending for juvenile, and there are 2 motions to vacate cannabis cases that have been filed and 2 that have been granted. So that's just been in the last year.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Fleming.
Thank you. I just was going to say someone is here from the Moran Center if we want to hear, if anyone's interested more about the program.
Sure. Love to. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kristen Kennard. I am the Deputy Director and Director of Social Work Services at the Moran Center. So Audrey just did a very good overview. I had some of those statistics for you. We've been doing this for many years in order to try to, we generally serve youth, but obviously if their parents, grandparents, guardians are struggling in some way with their record, it's difficult to get housing, it's difficult to keep employment, and so we see this on behalf of youth and families throughout Evanston. And I will just share that this fiscal year, starting in August, we've already had 5 new intakes for the program, which goes August through the end of next July. So if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer, but I think Audrey gave you guys a lot of the statistics.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Reed, you good?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. I'm curious. The number, if it was my memory correct, it's roughly $30,000 that we're allocated to this.
Yes.
Okay. And so how many folks do you think with that dollar amount could you help? Is it only 30? Because it comes out, I see that at least last year was roughly 27 cases. So is the cost about $1,000 per expungement?
Yes, approximately. And with the grant, we were served not less than 15. And we actually have the 27, but we did 34 intakes. And so it's just based on the courts right now and what can get through and how long it's taken to get certain things through because of COVID. But yes, approximately 1,000.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other indications that folks would like to talk, we can take a vote on this.
Councilmember Fleming,
Aye.
Councilmember Ravel,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
HS4 contract renewal for Amita Presence Behavioral Health for Critical Health Services. Staff recommends that Human Services Committee authorize the city manager to renew the service provider agreement between Amita Behavioral Health Presence Health and the City of Evanston for the provision of 24-hour crisis line access, mental health crisis intervention, and various community outreach and education services at a cost of $143,333. Sorry about that. The agreement is dated January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. Funding is provided by the Human Services Fund, Community Outreach Program, a line item, and then it goes on. So HS4, this is for action. Can I get someone to motion this for approval?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Councilmember Fleming.
Yeah, I just have a quick discussion, comment. I met with Cindy Castro and Director Oakville last week about this because in years previous, Councilmember Ravel and I have had some questions about it, and that meeting was helpful because I had a better understanding of kind of where they've been going and what the needs are. I think initially when this came up from the city, they were able to provide a little bit more long-term support, and now with the increase of mental health concerns and needs, they just don't have the staff. But Cindy was helpful in helping me understand some of the things that are gaps in services, particularly around like youth crisis, and I mean like kind of long-term inpatient crisis support that we don't have here in Evanston. So just to kind of bring that to the community's forefront, and something that I did ask Cindy and Ike if we can continue to talk about how we can make some solid referrals for youth when they need inpatient services. As you all know, we've had an increase, well, maybe not an increase, but we've had a number of teen suicides. And so I'm going to approve the contract this year. Cindy definitely has some ideas on how she can kind of help make those referrals to people and then follow up with them to make sure they're actually getting the services they need, which I think is something that other agencies do, but we can't have enough of that, particularly around our youth. So just wanted to throw that out there as kind of and I think Ike was able to update their contract a little bit to talk more about some youth service provision.
Any other questions, comments? It would be nice to, is there a breakdown of, and I don't mind getting this offline, but of, it says 146 Evanston residents have received resources and services via the library social worker. And then 100 Evanston residents have called the service line and received services and resources. Is there a breakdown of what the services that each person was provided? Obviously, not using people's names and all that unique identifiers, but just to get a sense of where the need is.
Good day, members of the Human Services Committee. Ike Ogbo again, Director, Health and Human Services Department. Part of the agreement is for AMIDA to submit quality reports to the Health Director, which they have been doing religiously. As far as the breakdown goes, it does provide ethnicity, race, and status of the individuals whom we are helping through the library services. We do have a clinician at the library who provides services to our community members. As far as the intricacies of the programs and what we have been offering, I have Cindy Castro here who can provide more information in that regard.
Hello, Cindy Castro. I manage the program. I manage the outpatient behavioral health clinic and also the library social worker. So yeah, we do submit a quarterly metrics to the health department. But if you guys want a breakdown for the library piece, I do have a breakdown in terms of what is being serviced. So for example, how many housing applications we've done, how many SNAP benefits, how many referrals go to like legal services. So I do have that breakdown and can provide that offline.
Yeah, that would be great. Any other questions? Councilmember Reed, you good? All right, thank you. All right, we can get a vote on this.
Councilmember Fleming,
Aye.
Councilmember Ravel,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
All right, moving along to HS5, Ordinance 118-0-21, amending the city ordinance to update the Undertakers Municipal Code and authorize the city clerk to issue death certificates for action. Can someone move this, please?
Move approval?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, hearing none.
Councilmember Ravel,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming.
Aye.
All right, items for discussion, HS6, Evanston Police Department Bulletin Update. If you can email me all the details.
Of course, yeah, we can do that. Oh, no problem. Sounds good. Okay.
Hello, council members, city staff, citizens. Jody Hart, Commander of Special Operations Group, and I'm here to give an update on the bulletin. It's our stance right now as the Evanston Police Department to continue public reporting as it is. What we include in the daily bulletin is information that is required by law. So right now, we will continue to do that.
Any questions? Councilmember Fleming.
I do have a question. So this came up, I can't remember where, but so we do the arrest, only the people who are arrested, only adults, and then what they're arrested for, right? Is that what the bulletin?
Correct.
Okay. And so by law, we have to provide that. Does it have to go out via email, or is that like an extra service that we provide?
It's a service that we provide. We use government delivery, and it goes out that way.
Okay. And then if someone was found, not guilty or unfound, whatever the things are, is there a way for them to, like, I know they can have their name removed, but like, what is their recourse? Because anything that's released online, I imagine it has some staying power, right? So it's online for a while. If I were to Google my name and I was arrested, so how do people kind of remedy that?
What we can do is when we release this bulletin, we can put it in there that all parties are proven innocent until convicted. That way, if they're not convicted, we put that out there already that they're not guilty until they're convicted. So that's something that we can do in the bulletin that goes out to people.
And then online, hi, I'm
step
Sarah Jones. So online, it's only 14 bulletins. So once it comes down, it's no longer available through our search. Now, if it's gone out to other people, we can't control that, but we have done our due diligence to make sure that 14 days of bulletins are all that's available.
So I do get it, and I can't remember the language that comes out with it. That language that you mentioned, Jody, is it possible to even put that in the text of the email? Because people who I know who get it are just reading for their neighbors' names, right? And so like the text of the email would be great if we could have a bold statement about these are arrests. It does not mean they're guilty, because this is a tiny town. And so I don't think people are going to be mindful of any kind of disclaimers as much as they're just curious about if their neighbor was arrested. And then let me ask you another question. Do we put sexual offenses in there?
We put all arrests in there.
All arrests, okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Councilman Reed?
Yes. Yes, so this seems to be as a response to a referral that I made a while ago. I just do want to clarify, it is not, and as Commander Hart said, it's not required by law that we email this out. It is required by law that within, I think, 72 hours that we make available a list of all people who have been detained in the city of Evanston. And so that is a mandate by state statute. But certainly the emailing of this list is not. And I would love, went through quite a bit over the last term of the council, and I think there's some carryover in the sentiment here that we don't want to do things as a municipal government to embarrass and harass unnecessarily our residents. And by putting out the names of people who have simply been arrested and not convicted of a crime, and not doing due diligence to go back and correct the record if someone was, mistakenly arrested, I think is causing undue embarrassment, harassment, and shaming to residents who may not be guilty. And so I think if we want to put out data about arrest and arrest locations, and that is a part of our strategy to get the community involved in understanding, where and how and what crime is happening. I think that's certainly, could meet some goal. But I do believe we should, in the practice of putting the name, the address, the age of folks who have, again, merely been arrested in our town in this bulletin that's emailed out to thousands of people, and certainly text searchable by email. So if you type in either a name or an offense, you can pull it up in your email, and it is still published on our website. So I was seeking with the referral to end the practice of what I believe is really just violating our residents' privacy and putting undue harassment out onto members of our community.
Councilmember Ravel.
Just a question. So what do other communities do? Are we an outlier on this, or do other communities do it this way?
We're pretty consistent with other police departments do. And I think actually we put out less than what some others may do.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? This is just for discussion.
So does Chicago put out an email list similar to this?
I'm unaware of what Chicago does. Sorry about that. It's something that I can try to look into.
Does Skokie put out a list, an email list like this?
Skokie releases their arrestees along with their mugshots. I know it's on their website. Skokie has their arrestees and their mugshots up with all the same information. They keep it up for a 30-day period.
Does Oak Park email a list like this out?
At this time, I'm unaware of what Oak Park does. Sorry about that.
Does
Wilmette
email it?
Councilmember Reed, maybe we could compile a list of different cities that we want to, compare this particular practice to.
The reason I asked this is because the statement was just made that we are in line with other communities, and I'm just trying to see what communities were in line with it. Because from my knowledge, we are fairly unique in the way that we distribute this list.
Yeah, no, I understand the line of question, and if we can, this is just for discussion, so maybe we can come back when this is for intro and have that information available.
Yes.
Is this coming back to the next meeting for intro?
I would hope so. I would like to see
action.
this come back for intro. I don't know if we need to take any other.
I think we just need to get direction what we're introducing. So I think this came from the referral, and it was on there. Anyway, however it was on there, I don't remember. But there is more information we definitely can ask these folks for. And so when they come back, they have an actual report. So sounds like people want to know what other communities are doing. We need to give them some direction if it's going to come back for introduction.
Well, it's Councilmember Reed's referral, so what would you like to see?
Yeah, whatever information folks want. The referral is to, in the practice of emailing out this daily crime bulletin and amending the information that we do release on it as not to, in line with what the council has expressed previously, to not unduly harass, embarrass, and shame residents when they have not been convicted in a court of law.
Sergeant, is that enough information for you?
Yes, Councilman.
Okay.
I want to add one thing. Can you just tell us how many people are receiving, when you come back, or maybe you know that now, Sarah, how many people are actually receiving it? And then I would just clarify that I think, because I did look into this at some point, what we release is what has to be released now, whether it has to be released, via email or put in a bulletin and whatever. But I think that the details we released are what we have to release by law, correct? Because we did in the practice of mugshots, which do not have to be released by law, and we did change the practice of how long these records are, at least on our website, although we know that they probably are still searchable other places. So if we can just have some information around those two things, that would be helpful.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
While I'm here, can I update you guys on the Evanston Police Department newsletter and in the squad room?
Is that on?
I think it was considered kind of all the same thing, because the squad room was a discussion they had before, and they were coming back to update us.
Is that what the Transparency Hub is? ESR?
No, that's a different thing.
That's something else.
I think it should have all been under 6.
Okay. Sure.
First, I would like to thank the writer in the squad room for their work. At this time, the police department will be heading in a different direction. The further discussion, we're going to release a newsletter, and it's going to be called the Evanston Police Department Newsletter. In this newsletter, it's going to consist of crime maps, crime trends, major incidents, crime prevention. This newsletter will be written by a staff member of the EPD, but this newsletter will not include addresses, names, or descriptors of offenders. If someone is arrested, then it will say the offender was arrested in this incident. There will be a sign-up sent out through the city's newsletter, and also we will sometimes send out surveys to get feedbacks from citizens in the community.
And that will be weekly, you said?
Yes, we'll be weekly, and we anticipate starting this out at the end of the month.
All right, well, I will thank you. I think Councilmember Reed might have brought this up, or someone did, but I will thank you for going in a different direction. There was some issues that I found with the bulletin, and I think as we had the discussion last time, realizing that it was done by a civilian who was being paid, and just some of the practices don't align, I think, with our current practices. So thank you all for taking that feedback and making this an internal document that we know respects, as Councilmember Reed says, respects our citizens, but also keeps the information, kind of streamline.
Chief Barnes?
Good evening, committee and staff. I just need to clarify that we're talking about two different things. So the bulletin is remaining at this time, and we will do that follow-up that was requested to get answers to those questions. What Commander Hart is referring to is the In the Squad Room. So we are doing a newsletter which will replace the In the Squad Room, which we hope to roll out at the end of the month. And we'll do a survey and just try to get some feedback. It's been our experience that we had 1,000 residents who were interested in the squad room, so we don't want to lose that base. And that's the clarification I wanted to make. There's the crime bulletin, and then there's in the squad room, but we're moving in a new direction, calling it something else. Is that understood? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chief.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, HS7. Again, this is another item for discussion. Evanston Police Department, ESRI Transparency Hub. Is it ESRI? Is it ESRI?
ESRI,
ESRI, okay.
We'll all talk the same thing, we'll all know.
All right, there it is. ESRI Transparency Hub, thank you.
Committee Chair, members of the committee, thank you. Commander Ryan Glue to speak tonight about the Transparency Hub. A couple things I want to touch on before we get going. The first one is a lot of people are involved in this, but there's two people I want to thank directly. One would be Anjali Daly, who is sitting at the laptop. She is responsible for a lot of the things that you're going to see tonight on the front end, the public-facing end of the ESRI Police Transparency Hub. The other individual is Mark Varner from the IT. He has done a lot of the back-end stuff that you won't see, but without his work, this doesn't work. So we'll start with that. We're going to launch tomorrow, barring any issues or objections, so on and so forth. Like any project, it is always be a work in progress. I will touch on one thing tonight, and that is our crime stats. We are still working on. Right now, it counts incidents, so the crime stats are underrepresented compared to how many victims we actually have. That is another process IT has to work on, and we do have added some language to that dashboard within the Transparency Hub to explain that. But this will be an evolution. It will be freshened periodically, and I think that you'll see how that could be done intuitively as far as this is, I don't want to say, it shouldn't be static, it should be dynamic. So with that, we'll get started. We'll go through a walkthrough. Periodically, if you ask a question, I might take some notes if it's something I need to follow up on. So thank you. Are we ready? Okay. All right. Here is our opening page. A lot of this we've talked about last time, 2 months ago, but now it is with Evanston material. So it is the Evanston Police Transparency Hub. It's also referred to as a dashboard, but it's actually a hub. It's called a hub because in actuality, it's a collection of dashboards. And we'll scroll down to the message from the chief. In the last 2 months, we have spent significant time engaging the community, including Citizens Network of Protection. We have met with them. We've gotten a lot of feedback. We have addressed a number, as I stated before, there's only so much we can do. We don't have complete latitude of what we can do with this product. But wherever we've taken all that input and utilized it wherever we could. And frequently asked questions was an area where we were able to address some issues that people brought up. One would be we were asked about body-worn cameras. What types of weapons does EPD have? There was a lot of questions about school resource officers. We put information up here about school resource officer, complete with a link to the intergovernmental agreement with District 202 and a video. how does somebody need to file a complaint if somebody wants an officer's conduct investigated, and information about juvenile arrest and adjudication. And this, as we mentioned before, also links us to the department's social media accounts. So somebody can follow the social media accounts from this hub. Additional resources that we use are law enforcement partners in the area, Northwestern, the North Regional Major Crimes Task Force, and NIPUS, all things that people are interested in, and are linked, information is linked to this hub. So here's our community engagement dashboard. So this is an interactive part of the hub where you'll be able to actually find your problem-solving team officer.
Based on what would you have to search? What do you?
I believe that Officer Daly is doing that now. So she put in the station address, and that would tell you the individual for that area that's highlighted is Officer Mike Jones, what his number is, and how you can contact him.
You could also put in your street address? Okay, thanks.
So with engaging the community, we also have information on how people, the various ways people can report a crime or criminal activity to the Evanston Police Department. Learn about our deployment process, which is the intel-led part of deploying our police resources based on the short-term and long-term trends, crime trends that we deal with in the city. Alderman Braithwaite, I believe one of the points you made last time was you wanted this hub to showcase and be somewhere people can find the programs such as OGA, CPA, and so on and so forth, and we have done that. And then there is a survey. There's a couple places on this Transparency Hub where there is a survey. This is a dashboard within the hub that will show the department's workforce diversity. As we all know, the City of Evanston's Police Department is one of the, in a small percentage of police departments that is reflective of the community that it serves. And this is an area where we can keep that information up to date and showcase that as well. So this will be, you see the community makeup below, and then the percentage makeup of the department. All the way down to how many officers or how many department employees are residents of the jurisdiction. So 180 employees in the department, and the average age and average years of service. And I want to say that I understand that we won't be able to cover everything here. It is a pretty interactive dashboard. It has a lot of stuff. So after it's launched, available to the public, I understand that you may go through it, have follow-up questions, and please feel free to contact me. We'll get you an answer. Crime stats is the one IT hiccup that we're reconciling right now. Also with crime stats, I want to point out that I misspoke at the last meeting. The way that NIBRS is presented is in this format: crimes against persons, crimes against property, crimes against society. However, there was a desire voiced at the last HSC meeting, we talked about this, that we still present our crime stats as we had in a report in the past, year-over-year comparison, and we were able to link that to this page. Angela, let me get a second. Could you go back to the top of the page?
Can you explain what crimes against society are?
We have crimes against society would be such as drug offenses or something that falls within that neighborhood. But I will follow up with an email tomorrow to you to specifically spell out what crimes against society and what it all encompasses.
And is there a way for people who are using the dashboard to know that? Can we do some kind of hyperlink to explain what those categories mean?
Yes. So,
May I receive that email as well that Councilmember Fleming is asking for?
sure. So it was voiced last time at the HSC meeting that we wanted to maintain the presentation, how we presented crime data in the past with a report. And even though we have to keep these in the form of NIBRs, there's a City of Evanston Police report. And if we could click on that. Okay. But
I'm sorry, can you, what is NIBRs?
This link, 1 second, please. I'll get back to that. This link will take it to the more traditional reports that we presented in the past.
While we're waiting for that, can you tell us what NIPERS is?
NIBRs is the how the FBI requires us to report crime stats and reports to the state and the federal government. We will have traffic stop data to start. We hope to expand that to pedestrian stop data as well. The dashboard, our present dashboard, is still live, and some of that information on there is not available here, and we will keep that information up until we have it up here. So pedestrian stop data, contact card information is still available on the dashboard.
So point of clarity, does the federal government does it require how we present data to the public or how we submit data to them?
It's more how we present data, how we have to have standardized reports, standardized reporting to the federal government and the state about crime statistics.
Well, we can go beyond that when we present it for the public, let's say on a website, for example.
Right. So the website, the way it was set up with crimes against persons, crimes against humanity, or crimes against property, crimes against people, that is something that we're kind of is a little static. It's the way that it is built, the hub at this present point. But that's why we put in the link to the city's website to give the more expansive report of year-over-year crime comparison, very similar in the way that we did it in the past. Mm-hmm. What we have to do now is basically have our internal technology talk to each other and report so that the information in our report management system is accurately represented on the dashboard. And that's what we're struggling with right now. So right now things are underreported because it's counting incidents, but it doesn't count victims, and that suppresses our numbers. So.
And use of force data, if you can remind me, where was that? Do we plan on having that on the website? Okay.
That will be probably the final tab that we go over, the final dashboard. We do have that on there. Look at the crime map. All right, here we have the crime map. Here's our traffic stop data. Mark, when does this data start?
The same as the old data. It goes back to October 1st, 2016.
So October 1st, 2016, so approximately that's 5 years of data. So that's what that is. So I don't want to be looking at it and go, we do 56,000 traffic stops a year. That is not. So that is over a 5-year period. So I believe we are going to come down here to, so the National Incident-Based Reporting System, that is NIBRS. And we have that, do we have that presently linked to learn more? Okay. Yeah, please, thank you. So we did add links to the crime stats data, and there is a link to NIBRS. And that takes us directly to the FBI's information? Yes. So we are able to link the various information that we present to its source information, such as here would be the FBI. Okay. Here's our use of force dashboard. I anticipate that this will be one of the first dashboards to undergo an evolution relatively quickly. We went, for the interest of launching this and for lack of a better term, breaking it, we went with the stock information that ESRI requests for use of force. Once we have it launched and we're more familiar with it, and we go through the process, we intend to refine the information presented. So here are the first graphs that are key use of force metrics. So on the left is for this year, how many use of forces so far this year. On the right is fatal use of force incidents. In the middle, where that spot, where the empty area would be use of force with serious injury. We don't have any use of force that would qualify as serious injury short of a fatality. So that is why that is empty, but use of forces that are more significant would occupy that space. And then as we go into 2022 and we have year-over-year data, they will be compared. So here we have the use of force, first graph, internal review of use of force, and it will say blue is in policy, 14 is yellow is the investigation review is pending, and green is out of policy. The use of force is out of policy for some reason. That right now, that one out of policy use of force is a minor handcuffing issue. It wasn't an excessive force problem. So link us to our use of force policy. This is where it gives us additional contextual information on when the force was used, such as the type of resistance, the force that was used by the officer, and the context in which it was a response to a call, the serving of a warrant, so on and so forth. We are presenting demographic information about force, the demographic information about the officers that use force, and those that are the arrestees or the subjects of force. So we're nearing the end of the review of the Transparency Hub. Are there any questions or anything that I should follow up on for anybody? Like I said, again, we plan on launching this tomorrow. I think that I feel pretty confident that it's ready for the public. There's a lot of work that went into it. But again, this is a work in progress. Feedback as we go will be recorded and used when appropriate. I will caution, and I want to manage expectations, that somebody may bring an issue to us that, one, we can't remedy right away, or we don't have a sample size big enough of feedback to make meaningful change. One of the messages in the last dashboard was sometimes we need to let it go for a little bit, get a lot of eyes on it, and then take a good sample of feedback to make appropriate and meaningful change.
Are you ready for questions?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm ready for questions.
Councilmember Reed, one sec. Councilmember Braithwaite, and then Councilmember Reed.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
It is on, okay. So thank you very much for incorporating a lot of the feedback that you got from our last meeting. A lot of good information. It seems very easy to navigate, so I'm looking forward to playing around with it. Is there anything, and I don't know if you tapped on the community engagement piece, but in terms of how do people who want to become a police officer here in our community, do they go through the HR portal? Is that where you would find that?
Officer Daly is nodding yes, so.
Okay. Maybe
I'm going to go with yes.
All right. Maybe to add that, and then I'm really looking forward to see what you all put in the community engagement piece. So I can look at that tomorrow when it's up. And just if you could pass along my thanks, our thanks to all the officers that contributed to the information that we're looking at right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes, I'm wondering why on the, well, again, thank you for the portal. This is really a big step up from the last portal, so great work here. So I want to highlight that first. But then on the use of force, it only has 2021 data. Why is it only 2021? Why don't we go do a deeper look back, as we have done with, for example, crime?
Well, for the purpose of launching this dashboard, we stuck with 2021. That's not to say that, again, as we go through and get more detailed into use of force, that we may not expand back. I don't know how far back we would, and I don't know the capabilities of how far back we can go, but we'll be concluding 2021 shortly. We'll be going into 2022, and even if we can't go far back, everything going forward will be compared year over year.
Okay. And then I saw that the daily crime bulletin was linked here. How far back does that go on this portal?
It's linked to the city website, right? It's linked to the city website. So whatever the city website, however long it's preserved there, it would be the same here. Whenever possible, we want to link our resources to something that already exists out of efficiency and keeping the message consistent.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Fleming.
Yeah, just so I have clarity. So you mentioned on a few of the things, I think it was the car stops or something, it goes back for 5 years, and you referenced several times 5 years. So I'm not clear as to Councilmember Reed's question, why can't use of force go back 5 years as well?
Right. Well, the short answer is the use of force data is still manual entry. The traffic stop data is automatic. It automatically comes out of the CAD and RMS system. I don't want to overpromise something that I can't deliver. As far as, can we manually enter in going back? Yes, we could in theory. I just have to verify how far back we can put the information in there and how that affects the information going forward when it comes to use of force.
So is there somewhere else people can find that information if they wanted to look back last year? Or?
We typically, for data like this, if somebody were to ask where is it, we would typically refer them to start with to the annual report.
Okay, so maybe that's where it's somewhere on there, because as we're tracking things year to year and seeing if there's increases or decreases, that's probably one people care to know about. So maybe we need to link to the annual report if they want to go back and see that information.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, one last question. Similar to the way in the daily crime bulletin that we released the name of folks who are accused of a crime, do we release the name of officers who are accused of misconduct?
We don't release it here in the Transparency Hub. There's no place for that right here.
Okay, but we do that for residents.
With regards to, are you talking about the crime bulletin?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we do link this to the crime bulletin, so in that context, yes, but we don't, there's not a modular dashboard here to do an expansive review of police misconduct and those involved.
Okay, thank you very much.
The use of force data, so I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. So I know if people have requested use of force data before, shouldn't that already be prepared and ready to do like a bulk upload, or why does it need to be, help me understand, why does it need to be manual one-by-one entry? I'm not following completely.
Because, so such as a report or traffic stop, so on and so forth, that go into RMS and CAD, that information is already, for lack of a better term, I think for this purposes it's accurate, but IT might be like, that's the wrong term. It's already digitized. It's already, you can pull from it. You can already get something, basically this Transparency Hub, to talk to it and pull that information out. That we don't have use of force data, especially use of force data with the kind of detail that we want to do in basically digital in the RMS system. So for instance, such as to upload this data was actually, I would sit at the computer, I would pull the use of force report out, I would go through a spreadsheet and then enter it manually, so then the Excel spreadsheet could basically talk to or upload to the Transparency Hub. So that's why that's the process. Once Mark Varner sets a lot of this up and the two systems talk to each other, it's almost a continuous update. Use of force still requires human manual entry. And even as we go to the next step with more information, I wouldn't necessarily call it a labor-intensive task, but it is going to get more detailed.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Commander. I don't think we have any other questions, right? We're good? All right, thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
And the last item for discussion, HS8, Alternative Emergency Response Subcommittee update.
I guess that's me. I can be super quick. So our committee is on hold right now. This committee has been meeting for about a year, almost every week, with the goal that we were charged with really to look at an alternative response to 911 calls, so mental health professional type response. Through all of our work, we got to the point of releasing an RFP, only to learn that the state had also released an RFP for the same coverage. And so now Trilogy and Turning Point are contracted responders via a grant from the state of Illinois. So they are working with the state, trying to figure out what that looks like and what that response will be. And so as we learn that, we're still in touch with them. And so as we learn that, our committee will kind of reconvene and still take up the community engagement, community education piece we talked about, to make sure when that response model is online, people know who will be responding, how they respond, how you reach them, and all those kind of things. And probably having those staff come here as well, so people can kind of put a name with the face. In the meantime, another thing that our committee discovered in our work is that not only did we need another response, but we need somewhere else to take people who are suffering from mental health, or behavioral health, or even substance abuse problems, because taking them to the police is not what we want in its community. Taking them to the emergency room does not provide the support they need. And so now we have started looking into providing or seeing if we can open a living room here in Evanston. And a living room essentially is a mental behavioral health, not facility, but a location where people can go, during whatever hours it's open, to get immediate support. So there are therapists there, there are counselors, and so on and so forth. So we are now kind of looking into that, if we can have the capacity and location to open that here. And so that will serve two issues. People can walk in to get support, as well as when we have these alternative response folks working in the area, they have somewhere to actually take people and hopefully get people connected to long-term support so we don't have this continuous cycle of call and response. So our committee, Alderman Ravel and I really want to thank the members of our committee. They have been so dedicated. Like I said, they have met for a year. We don't have anything to show yet, but they are all committed to continuing this work to make sure this program gets launched. And then we have committed to doing the follow-up sort of to kind of track the responses and the calls and the type of service people are getting. So we wanted to give an update here as we think about all of the needs that are coming before us with the ARPA funds and the report Jessica gave earlier, to just let people know that this work is continuing. And we're hopeful that with the state funding, Trilogy and Turning Point will be able to come, by the end of the year to let us know what that response is going to look like. So we will have an alternative for folks who need support but do not need an armed officer.
All right, open it up for discussion. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilmember Reed.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Councilmember Fleming and Ravel and all of the other members of the committee, including Eighth Ward. So I'm curious, do you think that the RFP process would have been more successful if we allocated more money to the program? And what do you think that dollar amount might be if that is the case?
Well, I mean, everything is almost more successful with more money. We only allocated $200,000 for the program, which Alderman Ravel and I said very early on was not enough money, but we were trying to make it work since that's what we had. So I don't know what that funding amount would be because, as I said, when we put our RFP out, we spoke to the providers who we knew of in the area, and they were quick to tell us they had both applied for the state funding. So we quickly moved on to looking at, how we could provide the second piece of the service people need, which is a living room, which is likely going to be more than $200,000 when we get those costs. We would definitely be coming back to ask you all for your support in that. We still have $200,000 that was allocated for this year. $200,000 is in the budget for next year. But we definitely will need more money into this program, although it's not the response model. But we would need more money. I don't know what that is. I would guess maybe $400,000 to $500,000, but we don't have cost in yet. It's based on the space and also the service provision, and we don't have those numbers yet.
Thank you.
I guess my only question is, have we thought about hiring people to do this work as City of Evanston employees? I feel like we contract out for a lot of what we do, which in certain cases makes sense, but I think part of the goal was to, and we're doing this with the Reimagining Public Safety Committee, in particular, the rethinking the organizational structure. And I know some of our conversations are leading us to not think about contracting out the work as much as building a new division within our, city government. And so have y'all thought about that as opposed to contracting out, what that would look like?
Well, we did think about that as a committee early on. So we, as you know, we've been going before this new administration in the Reimagining Public Safety Committee. So we did think about that. Some things that kind of we were cautioned about is bringing in new staff would be under the union and what that cost looks like. And as this being a pilot, which we had not committed, as Councilmember Reed just said, only $200,000 to, what that response was going to get us, because the union staff with benefits and all that was going to clearly eat up that cost. And we were trying to design a program with 4 responders because 2 responders are going to get burned out pretty easy. What we have put in our RFP, as well as what we, have thought about as a committee, regardless of what the Trilogy and Turning Point folks do, are peer supports. And so those are nationally kind of recognized as being very beneficial. So we are looking, we had been looking for and asked for people from the community who had experience with substance abuse, the variety of things in which we think people will need service for, and they would work with the clinicians. And that is something that Turning Point and Trilogy both have said as part of their service delivery motto. And so we definitely will be advocating for those folks to be Evanston residents. The way it's set up now, they probably will be staff of Trilogy or Turning Point. not staff of ours, but they would be Evanston residents. And that's also something, I'm looking at the living room model that people have talked about. It's important to have peer supports there, and so we definitely would be looking to have peer supports, Evanston residents there in the living room as well to provide that support for folks who need it.
Yeah, it'd be just interesting to see if they think they can keep up with the volume of calls, because I think our discussion was really based on how do we ensure that there's another public servant answering all of these types of calls, whether it's well-being checks or as opposed to, well, if I'm available, I'll go out and I can handle the call. What does it look like
Well,
to provide
again,
full
so this
coverage?
is coming from the state, so we have to now work within, the state is putting funding together. As I said, the service providers who have been granted the contract are working with the state to figure those things out. The state contract or the state grant was not super explicit, so they're working through all of that in terms of how they get the calls, the 911. I mean, the state's paying for all that. And so I think with anything, we're going to have to scale up, because even if we have 24-hour response, if we're still dropping people at the police station or at the emergency room, we're not providing the services they need, right? So if we get the living room open, probably is not going to be open 24 hours a day to get started, right? So we're going to have to to scale up to get this to the capacity that we need.
When will we hear back from the state in terms of?
We're waiting. I mean, the state is slow.
Right. Yeah.
We're in touch with Trilogy and Turning Point. They've been great partners. We've had several meetings with them. They've started onboarding some staff, but, we're not in charge of that contract, unfortunately.
Any other questions, comments? All right, seeing none, we have no other items on the agenda, so I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.